So I wanted to share some of the good and bad of road tripping across the country, as well as planning and executing. I'm gonna go to Malibu and watch the sunrise while we do it. Let's go. About 6 months ago, but if you want to be extra prepared, I would recommend 10 to 12 months. We just needed a fire under our to get going. So the place I wanted to go to is closed because it was a race. So we have to settle for this spot. Not bad. Still June gloom, even though it's October. So humans tend to get a bit comfortable, so we knew if we just lit a fire under our butt 6 months before, it would happen, versus if it was a year in advance for us, we forget about it, we go on with our daily lives, we get comfortable. So that's why we chose 6 months. A little bit daunting and overwhelming if you've never really planned a trip before. So my number one tip is just to write down a list of all the places you definitely want to visit. It's a rocking chair. Okay, once you have a general route down, you want to plan out how many days you actually want to be gone for. So we chose around 7 to 10 days. And then after that, you can start to divvy up which stops you want to take on which days. It's also important to keep in mind how long each stop will be from each other. Personally, I didn't want to pack too many 8+ hour drives back to back. So it looked more like 6 hours, and the next day 2 hours, and the next day 5 maybe. So it was really nice to have it nice and broken up, and you can relax for half a day in new places. This took a lot of trial and error, and we honestly changed the route a few times on the way there, so take that with a grain of salt. So once you get a timeline, I started going into Airbnb, hotels, and different accommodation, and kind of pinning different places that are optional and then putting them into my maps. So you're gonna put all your stops that you want to stay at, your Airbnbs or your hotels, and all this into My Maps, which I'll have linked below. My favorite thing ever. My Maps is my saving grace for travel. So the next tool I use for comparing stays is Google Sheets. Google Sheets will help you compare everything from coffee shops, accommodation, whatever you are deciding, you just put it all in Google Sheets. And I'll also link that down below, an example of how it looked like for me and planning our trip. So I'd write down each stop, general to-dos, coffee shops, the amount of driving we're going to do that day, all in this. So every single morning you didn't feel overwhelmed, you can just open it up and see what you're going to do that day. No stress. Since we were only 6 months out, we really had to grind for those 6 months, especially because we're moving to California, so you really need some cash money. But to get a general price range, I wrote down accommodation, daily coffees, daily lunch and food, budgeting snacks, because that's going to be a lot of money, and gas. And then any other random expenses I thought would come up, like parking fees, national park fees. Just budget in there, more the better, obviously. From start to finish, we spent around $1,700. A little bit more than we expected. It was about $400 over budget, but I'll explain that in the next video as to why. So if you include the pod that we rented to move our stuff over, we spent about $2,500. Now again, a lot. So we ended up selling a lot of our items leading up to this anyway, which kind of lessened the blow. And we went with U-Box, which out of all of the options that we compared against, it was the lesser of evils, and it was the cheaper one. You're good to go. You have to plan it. Put a date on the calendar and go. And in the next video, I'm gonna go over the entire road trip. We'll get an idea of what went wrong, because a lot of things went wrong. Thanks for joining, and